Alright guys, welcome to Z's Bees. We're going to do some winter preparation today. The last few nights the temperatures have got down to either freezing or just about to it. We're going to remove all of the liquid feed that's on there, and we're going to go from there. So what I have here, we'll take off, Molly, if you want to kind of pan over here. This here is my feeder board. This is just protection, and then these are the two brood boxes. We're going to take a winter feed, which looks like a pollen patty, but it's got a less protein content, which is gonna give them the nutrients, but also not try to elicit the rearing of brood like we would want to do in the spring. So we're gonna do that. Now, the interesting thing today is that they are very active. If you want to look down in the front, I have the mouse guards on there, so we're gonna see how they do. They might be a little upset with us, but we're not gonna be messing with them too much on here. So with that said, I got my smoker. We're gonna jump right into it. So we'll just smoke around a little bit. And I'm gonna move relatively quick, but not trying to rush too much at all. There's quite a few bees out, so we'll see how they are acting. So this is good. There's still a little bit of feed in here, which means that they're not necessarily taking it real fast. Quite a few bees on here. We're gonna pop this. I have a feeling there's gonna be a lot of bees under this cover because they're not necessarily balled up at this point. When they ball up, that's so that they can keep warmth on there. So what I'll do, I'll take, and that looks like a really, really good population. Molly, you wanna get a little closer? You feel comfortable? The pollen patty that I put on there a while ago is almost completely gone. You can see they're starting to really bump me. Give them a little bit of smoke. And I'm gonna tap this. This will make them a little bit okay, so this is good. Get them to go down. Their stores are looking good. I see some honey in there. This little piece of honeycomb will take off. They just built that out. That was right underneath the feeder bucket. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take one of my winter feed boards. They can move through this. Get all the debris that's hanging off of it. I'm going to take these out. If you remember, these are the Apivar mite strips. I'll clean all this up in a little bit. And they have propolized those in there. This will go on top. So as the cluster moves up, they have food to get in there. And then the concern is you have a really, really warm hive and there's going to be a buildup of moisture. So this is a pillow full of pine shavings. That's going to absorb a lot of the moisture. Inside of here is a nice vent that goes around. There's screen vents all the way around, and there's also an inner cover. So I'll put this on here, just like that. Now, this is what's called a bee cozy. This is essentially just it's a windbreak. There's a little bit of R value or insulation to it. We're going to put this around. And this is going to slide down. I want to make sure that little tab up there is in the front. And then what I'm going to want to do is put some screws in the front so that it lifts it up above the entrance. Otherwise they're going to get real upset in a hurry. So that's going to prevent, just for now, I'm going to put this on there just to keep that front entrance open there. There's enough of a gap around this whole thing that it allows for ventilation to move out, but it blocks the wind. So we're going to do that to all the hives, and we'll go from there. Populations look really, really good. I'm not going to open it up too much because it's only about 50 degrees. They would be okay with that, but if there is some brood in there, they need to maintain that over 90 degrees. So I don't want to open that up and risk killing any of those in there. Population on this looks perfect. So okay guys, on the second hive here, one of the things that I just noticed, The downfall of bucket feeding during this time of year is you have really cold temperatures at night and it warms up during the day. What you see here is that the different pressures can ultimately flood the bees. Now, I think I have it early enough that they're going to be able to clean it off, but all these bees right here are coated. If it was ended up staying really cold one day or whatnot, so you see here, this bee right here, it'll be fine, but it's completely covered in that liquid. The different pressures, it ends up pushing down and it can flood your hive. I have a feeling, looking at this one here, when I came down here earlier, there was some yellow jackets, and you see this right here. I think that this bucket in here might have drained out a little bit. So a little bit of concern. I think it's warm enough that they'll be able to manage it, but that's why I'm getting the 2-to-1 sugar water off the hives. They're really not taking that anymore, and now we're switching over to. They still have their honey stores, but again, I'm putting on some of the. So again, this one looks pretty solid. Not as big of a population as the one next to us, but this is what's really encouraging. They were taking in pollen. That was a 1-pound pollen patty. The reason that they take that in is to feed their brood. So that's all in there. Again, we're going to remove this. I'm going to set this, we'll give this a little tap. There's not many on here. Just get those off. We'll set this here. We'll do a little bit of cleanup. Again, this is the Apivar strip. There's a medication on here. As the bees walk over it, it ends up killing any kind of mites on there. So I haven't checked my mite load since I did initially. It's something I probably should have done, but at this point, I'm satisfied with where we're going into the winter. So we're going to take that. We'll get this one out of here. I'm going to give them a little smoke. You can feel them bumping your hands and stuff. Still really happy with this. I see a lot of honey in there. We'll take this out of there, set that aside. We'll do the same thing. We have the food board. We have the moisture board with a front entrance, or a top entrance, I should say. So that sets right on top. Now this time I'm going to get smart. Before I put the cozy on it, I'm going to put the screws in. If you come over here, what I ended up doing, Molly, you want to come over here? The bees are going to check this out. There's a nice gap right here, and the front entrance, the top entrance is here. As the snow builds up, if it builds up here, they'll still be able to use this, or if they need to take a cleansing flight. They don't poop or pee inside their hive, they'll actually leave. So after, if there's a real cold month, but you get one day that's in the 40s or 50s, they'll come out and they'll do all that. The bottom entrance is still available. They have food that's on top, and we're gonna do the same thing. But what I ended up doing is putting 2 screws that's gonna hold this up so it doesn't slide down. And again, this just provides a wind barrier, but there's also a gap around this whole thing that provides for ventilation. So we're gonna move on to the next one over here. We're gonna get them all prepped, and then I'm gonna do the screws, and then it's kind of just waiting. We'll come down every little bit. After a while, we'll check the feeder boards. We'll go. This is, I'll just have to put the straps on. But one of the things I want to show you again about that feeding with buckets this time of year, if you come over here, there's a little bit of concern. You see all these yellow jackets that are over here, and there's a whole bunch of liquid that's right on the stand. One, the bees aren't defending it, which there's a good population in here. So this was the hive that swarmed. This is probably the weakest hive visually now going into winter. We'll see what happens. We have them set up. You do see that there are some bees that are harassing the yellow jackets, but overall, I'm really happy with how this is. I'm gonna put the straps on it just in case we get a hard wind. And what I'll end up doing is probably in a month or two, I'll check the food boards. A lot of times they call them candy boards that are on top. I'm using the Daydont A23, which again, it provides the sugar as well as all the different proteins that they need. So there's not a ton more to go. Now we hope. You never really know how they're gonna do. I think the mite load is low enough. I think they have food, maybe a little bit early. You don't necessarily have to put the feed on top, mainly because of the risk of, if there's warm weather, it would melt into there. But I think the weather's gonna be cooperative enough that we'll be able to handle it. So with that said, It's going to be a while before the next video. I'm sure we'll have a few other things, but you're also witnessing what is going to be my Halloween costume. So thanks for watching.